Coming to the US to pursue my masters. It took me 3 years to convince my parents for it because it was a very big decision. And as a woman, we have this, and especially having roots from India, we always try to please people. We always want
Yeah.
to keep everyone happy, but believe me, you cannot keep everyone happy, and you don't even need to. So whatever pleases you, do that.
Earlier you mentioned that, I believe when you mentioned something about working with PwC, that you looked at people ahead of you and you didn't, that's not really the life that you wanted to lead for yourself. And what is the life that you want to lead for yourself? What does that look like?
Well,
Welcome everyone to another episode of Success Beyond Our Greatest Fear with Sonali. Today, I'm very excited to welcome our guest. She is a senior cloud solution architect supporting Gen AI initiatives at Microsoft. She's also a startup advisor and a career mentor for many professionals. Please help me welcome Ananya Ghosh Chowdhury. Welcome to the show, Ananya. It's really great to have you here today.
yeah, and thank you so much, Sonali, for inviting me. This is really a great opportunity, and I'm really excited to have this conversation. I can start with a little bit introduction of myself, and as you have already kind of mentioned a few things. Hi, my name is Ananya. I'm a senior cloud solution architect supporting mostly generative AI initiatives at Microsoft. So, as a part of my role, I basically help organizations develop and execute some enterprise-wide AI strategies, help them with advanced analytical use cases, innovative AI solutions to achieve their business outcomes and increase efficiency, productivity, reduce cost, and also open up new opportunities for growth. I have over 10 years of experience in data science, machine learning, data engineering, software engineering, cloud technologies across different verticals, retail, healthcare, finance, education. In addition to my professional role, I also contribute my time as a mentor in the community for startups, entrepreneurs, and investors. I'm also a mentor in the Women in Data Science, a mentor for TopMate, High Counselor, and also an advisor for some AI-based startups. Additionally, I'm also a member of the Harvard Business Review Advisory Council, the IEEE Computational Intelligence Society, and I'm very passionate in general about empowering women in STEM, mentoring young professionals, make an influence and impact on the industry, and touch lives of people in a beautiful way. Like I feel if I can influence one people and change, one people's life, that's definitely a success.
I think that's beautiful. And I love that that's one of the focus that you have whenever, no matter what kind of work that you're doing. I remember when I got into tech, it was mostly like, oh, you're just going to be working with computers and that's all the interaction. And I had the misconception, but as I'm growing in it, it's also realization that the work that you do actually has an impact on real people. And my work is mostly, workforce related. So it's like, oh, I'm actually having some type of impact on the employees that we hire and so on and so forth. And it's very similar to what you're talking about for making sure that you have that influence, not just in people, but, new startups that are emerging as well. So I think that's beautiful. Today, I actually want to talk about, and you have a lot of experience in many different fields when it comes to, the data umbrella. I do want to talk about what made you want to, because initially you had started your career in India. I wanted to know, like, what made you want to move to the US and, kind of kickstart your career in a new country? What was that like for you?
Well, it was an amazing journey. So in India, I was working in PwC. I was like okay in my career, but then there was a point when I realized that I definitely want to do something more, explore new to enhance my career. I was kind of seeing my seniors in the organization, and I soon understood that this is probably not the life that I want. I wanted to travel. I wanted to have new experiences, meet new people, and coming to the US to pursue my masters. It took me 3 years to convince my parents for it because it was a very big decision, and it took me 3 years to convince my parents that I'm serious about it and that I would be okay without their guidance in a new country. So when I came in here, I did not know anyone in this country. I took a huge amount of education loan to fund my education, but fast forward 5 years, I tell you, this was the best decision of my life. All the risks I took, all the sleepless nights, everything paid off, all the hard work. And I definitely would encourage anyone and everyone, if you would want to make a change in your life, if you would want to pursue your dreams, this is a wonderful opportunity. This country has a lot to offer. So definitely, take that chance.
Yeah, I want to go back to what you mentioned. It's like the 3-year part to convince your parents, because I think it's very cultural too, in many cultures, and in other cultures, it's not really like, oh, why do you care? Because you're an adult, right?
Yep.
But I also come from India, so it's you know, your parents have such a big influence on your life, whether you want to or not. You just kind of grow up under their shadow. What was that breakthrough process like? Because for me, if I have to convince my parents, it's like I end up having doubts on my own decisions. So is that something that you dealt with, and how did you navigate that?
Well, it was more about, firstly when I started that discussion, it was like, no, like it's of course, it's a new country, and it's like very far, right? Like it's not like Singapore, which is like a 4 hour flight, right? US it's very far. And of course we do not knew anyone in here. We didn't have any family back then in here. So and later, when we were having this conversation, we just realized, okay, hey, I do have an aunt who lives in Boston. So that kind of helped up, she really helped me in convincing my parents. And I was able to secure a loan. I did all of my due diligence in finding a college, and talking to people, getting an admission. I was studying for GMAT. I was literally waking up at 5 a.m. in the morning, going for my GMAT tuitions which was starting at 6. So 6 to 8 I was doing my GMAT preparations. I would come back and then go to office at 9. And again, in India, back in PwC, I was working from 9 to 8 p.m, right? So the amount of hard work I did, kind of maybe convince my parents that no, okay, she's serious about it and she's grown up now, and she'll be okay. and,
Yeah.
and and also, like, I'm very like, I don't like just listen to it. I'm like very like, I tell my decisions almost. It was like, that, like, I'm telling you I'm going. It's not that, like, I'm asking for permission at this moment. I've done that enough. I've done that for a long time. Now I'm going. uh please help me.
No, I love that. And I think that's a really good distinguish
Distinction.
distinguishment. Thank you. I almost had it to make. It's like I'm not asking for you to, say yes or no. It's more of like, this is the path that I want to take, and I would really, really
Right.
appreciate your support. Because it does help to have their support, whether or not it's financially, just,
Yep.
hearing from them like, oh, you got this, and I know you'll get there. And it
Yep.
seems like you didn't just ask for it, you proved to them that you're capable of doing it, and you're capable of handling your own, in a whole new country.
Yep.
Moving to a new country when you don't know anyone except, one person, that's still very difficult because it's a culture shock. It's sometimes it's a language shock. I know it was for me because I moved when I was younger. But also just when you're entering the workforce, that's also very different in the US versus, India. So I've heard, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but what was that, I guess the transition itself when you did finally made it to the US, what was that like, the adaptation of the new culture?
Yeah. So when I first came into the US, honestly, the first few weeks I was thinking, hey, like, I was making good amount of money in PwC, and now a whole new situation where I'm in a student life. I do not have my salary hitting the bank account every end of each month. That was I really doubted my decisions there. Really, like, why did I do it? Like, and I came in first to Connecticut. It was snowing all day. It was not like, I was going out every day, or having fun, having parties. So there was a time, a brief, 2 weeks when I was maybe doubting my decision, but then I worked really hard. So as a student, when I came in, all I knew was I can do any student job, right? Any job within my university. So left and right, I started applying to any and every job that was available within my university. And I applied to a software engineering job for the state of Connecticut when I was just 1 month into the country. Like, I knew nothing about it. Like, just 1 month into the country, and then they called me for an interview. I didn't even know that it was an interview. They just said, hey, we would like to meet you. I was like, okay, fine, fair. So I directly went from my class as soon as my class ended to that place, and they said, okay, so it's an interview, and your interview starts in 15 minutes. I'm like, what? I'm not even prepared for it. But anyway, so yeah, just before a month before, in India in PwC, I was taking interviews, right? So I was kind of prepared for, like, it's like still fresh in my mind because I was taking interviews. So I exactly know the words that these people are looking for. And, and it was very much my job profile that I was doing back in India. So yes, I took the interview, and I got the job, and I was able to get a graduate assistantship, which did not exist in my university back then. I studied in University of Connecticut, and I was actually the first one who got a full tuition fee waiver because I got this, GEH, a graduate assistantship. So I got my full tuition fee waiver, and I was also getting a stipend, like just a $2,000 stipend. But back in student life, $2,000 means a lot.
That's enough.
That too in Connecticut, right? Because it's not as expensive. So yeah, so that was my first job in the US. Well, I wouldn't say there was a lot of difference professionally when I went to the office, because the work was the same. The people were a little different. I mean, like it was a little bit of cultural, I would say, adaptation, but not as much. I think people were, very welcoming, very, very generous, very helpful. And and when it comes to, and when you know your work, and when you voice your opinion, when you are technically strong and you are making an impact, I think you just, blend in. I don't know. For me, it was not a huge, big shock or something. I blended in pretty comfortably, I would say.
Yeah. And one thing I want to point out is as you speak about your expertise, as you speak about your work, you are very confident and and that's wonderful because for me personally, I'm still very early in my career. So there are like, these doubts that come up consistently for me, thinking like, oh, do I have enough expertise to be in this room? But it doesn't sound like that's something that you experienced when you started, but I'm not sure if that's something you experienced when you started your career, like 10 years ago.
Well, imposter syndrome is a thing. I wouldn't say that I have experienced it as so much. I have always been very confident, and I've always been very hardworking, I would say.
Mm,
So, and for example, any new thing that would come up in my in my job scenario, for example, if I've not done that work before, I would immediately go do my hard work, do watch some YouTube videos, do some courses, do whatever I would need to do to get myself upskilled,
mm,
right? And some things, as women, what I have seen is, as women, we think that, for example, we need to know 80% of that work for us to say, or let's put it the other way around. For example, 80% of about a subject, you don't know the 20%. We would still have a thought in our mind, hey, I still don't know that additional 20%, and hence I would do not speak up. Amazingly and contrastingly, for guys, I have seen it is the reverse. Even if they know 20% about a subject, they would be all in, say whatever they know, and they wouldn't care that they do not know that 80%, right? So that's definitely a mindset difference between men and women in the workplace, I have seen and observed. Um, and it also kind of translates to our dating scenario as well, right? So if a girl is like, if she has a 1% chance that the guy might say no, the girl would never ask the guy out for a date, right? But
yeah.
oppositely, for a guy, if he knows that there's even 1% chance that the girl might say yes, he would go and do that. So it's a mindset difference,
Yeah.
and I don't know. I've seen this so much.
Yeah, and I think there was a study that I looked into a while ago, but it talked about how men are more likely to apply for jobs even if they're unqualified for it, or if they may not, check all the boxes. Versus women, when they read through their job box, like all the requirements, they feel the need to check all these boxes before they even consider applying for a role. And most of the times, we just count ourselves out before we even take a chance on ourselves. And for me, it sounds like you build that muscle for yourself, or like the confidence muscle. It's like through hard work. You've proven to yourself that you're capable, and it shows up in every aspect of your life. You keep going after it. And as you mentioned, like you've come across chances and projects that you've never worked on before, but you're not questioning your ability to learn something new, which I think is wonderful. And if you have an example that you want to share of a specific projects that you did feel like, "Oh, I don't know if I have this," but you still figured it out. What was that process like for you?
Well, I would say about my current job in Microsoft. So Microsoft was my dream company always. Like, when back in school, if I remember when I was probably in, sixth, seventh standard, when we used to write slam books in schools, right? In my slam books, I remember I always wrote my dream company as Microsoft. Like Google, Amazon was not as famous back then, or maybe I didn't know about it or whatever. I always had Microsoft as my dream company. So when I first came to the Seattle area, we were just, taking a tour around the campus, and I immediately said, like this is gonna be my next organization. And then I finally made it to Microsoft. And also another instance. So the Times Square Microsoft building, right? I think the address is 7 Times Square, something like that. But anyway, so it's right, right in the middle of Times Square. And I always wanted to work out of that office, and I did that. So that was some of the maybe I manifested it and worked hard for it. So yeah, when I joined Microsoft, and in the team that I'm in, and in the role that I'm in, everyone in here is like, pretty experienced. Everyone is like, 15 years experience, 20 years experience, and like they're a lot more experience than I had in this role. So I was kind of it took me some time to understand the role about what I have to do, and the people that I were working with, were all from, like, Stanford and all of these, like, big name organized, big name colleges, and everyone had a very fancy MBA. So I, for a second, I was like, hey, what do I do to, like, make myself at par to them? So I really worked hard. Like, I was working over weekends and thing, and I completed every courses, everything that I could do at my capacity to get up to speed. And then when I started working, I realized, hey, well, I also know stuff, and my manager, again, my manager has a significant impact on my career. She is, again, a woman, and a woman who is super supportive, and motivates a lot. So she said, hey, if you're hired at this in this role at this level, it is for a reason, right? So, do not doubt it, go about it. And I just started with, but there have been situations when I have been on customer calls without fully knowing the context about, what's happening, what it is, but that's okay. You figure it out, and you kind of build a muscle memory towards it. And I think I think I heard in your conversation somewhere, everything is figure outable. I
Yeah.
loved that. I love that. So, yeah, no one knows everything. That's the thing. And in Microsoft, we have a growth mindset. We don't have a know it all mindset. We have a learn it all mindset. Like, if you do not know something, just be open about it. Hey, I don't know this thing, but don't worry, I'll get back to you. So it's
Yeah.
a very acceptable answer, right? I'll get back to you is an acceptable answer. So
Mhm.
go, just try new things. So it's okay.
No, I like that. And I do want to add a disclaimer. Everything's figure outable is not
Yeah.
my original quote. It's a book out there, and I heard it on
Oh,
a podcast too. And I'm like, wow, that's amazing. And that really resonated. That's why I say it too. But yeah, no, I actually love that example that you shared. It's when you're surrounded by people who are so, more advanced or may have different avenues that they've taken in their career, and you tend to compare whether or not you want to or whether or not you like to. And that makes you feel very uncomfortable in that situation because you think, do I even deserve to be there? Or do I deserve to be here? Did I earn it? Or was this just a glitch in the matrix? Or did I just end up here by chance? And I love how having a great manager is so underrated. And you need that in order to have some level of growth in your career. Because if you don't have a manager that encourages you or have those conversations with you, you're more likely to keep on questioning yourself, whether or not you're progressing in your career. But kind of tying into that, apart from your manager and maybe even with your manager, and are there other people in your, professional journey who've helped you just kind of overcome some of those doubts that you may encounter?
So yes, I do have people who are who motivates me, inspires me, and makes sure that I'm on the right track. But and I feel everyone's journey is different. So just because a particular process has worked out for someone else doesn't mean it has to work out for me. I might get there a little earlier, right? Or I might get there a little late. But my journey could be my journey could be totally different. The paths I would take is different because everyone comes with their uniqueness. I am good at certain things. You would be good in certain other things. So that's the complementary things that we are looking for in the industry, right? Again, in Microsoft, we believe in diversity and inclusion so much. And I believe in that. We all have complementing skills. So my journey would be different. So yes, I have mentors who definitely inspire me, but I feel at the end, it's your journey.
Mm,
And you know best what will work out for you. You know best where you want to reach. So
yeah.
there will be people to guide you and help you, and frameworks to advance you. But you would be your greatest supporter, your greatest motivator. And I'm definitely very self motivated. Again, I have my husband as well. He is a like he supports me so much. He's my biggest cheerleader. And he always makes sure that I am achieving whatever I want to achieve.
Yeah, and I think it's so important to have a partner because they're with you all the time,
Yeah.
who supports you and sometimes guides you through your journey. But a lot of people don't. I didn't realize that either because, when you just start dating, you don't realize the importance of having a good partner by your side. And even picking the right partner to be there for you is going to be very crucial. And that's not just for your personal life, but for your professional life too. But
Yep. That's something I always, tell my mentees, like be it guys or girls, choosing the right partner is a career decision as well, because that shapes you as a person, that shapes your career, and like that's all we all are looking for. So it's very important that you choose the right partner and who kind of has similar goals, similar visions for himself and for you. So yeah, it's a very important career decision as well.
yeah, it's having alignment, right? It's having alignment with your partner because you kind of also look that for your job too, whether or not you're in alignment with what you want out of your life. Earlier you mentioned that I believe when you mentioned something about working at PwC that you looked at people ahead of you and you didn't, that's not really the life that you wanted to lead for yourself. And what is the life that you want to lead for yourself? What does that look like?
Well, I like to travel. I like to explore, and technically as well, I am a self-starter. I'm a self-motivator. I have very high ambitions for myself.
Mhm.
Um, I am not someone who likes to follow the norm so much. I like to, create my own path. And I like to be creative at work. I have my own things that I want to do and I do not want to do. The best part about my role again in Microsoft is we get that opportunity to be creative, to be your own cheerleader and all of that. So that's something I definitely wanted. And moving to a new country definitely gave me a lot more in terms of perspective. And as they say, right, life humbles you. Moving to a new country also humbles you, right?
Mm.
So that was another part. And I definitely feel this country has a lot to offer, lot of many opportunities and many things that you can do outside of work regular than your 9 to 5 job, because you would have your job is something that you definitely do, but there would be other passions as well that you would want to pursue, that you would like to do for yourself, right? So all of those things as a person, I felt I was a little limited there, in also in terms of my professional growth and in terms of my personal growth. So coming in here, and working for Microsoft in this role, I definitely am growing personally, and I love that.
Yeah, and I love that. And what did you mean by, and I understand that, but is there something that comes to mind when you say, oh, moving to a new country just humbles you? In what way did it humble you? Was there a specific moment that you can think you're like, shit, why did I do this?
Yeah. Being in India, I feel we take few things for granted. Like for example, someone is making like our parents preparing our food for us, right? And you're staying in your parents' home for indefinite number of years and things like that, right? So but in here, you're thankful for every single thing. You literally have you gratitude for small things. Even like saying thank you. In India, we don't say a lot of thank you, and we do not mean that, right? But coming in here, when you have to do all of your work yourself, so I feel it definitely humbles you. You definitely feel that so there are so many people in this world. The world is so big. It has so many different things, and you're just like very small in that entire ecosystem. So that way, I definitely feel like life humbles you. You got to do all of your work, and you definitely have. You're thankful for anything and everything that you get.
Yeah.
So yeah, that way, I definitely it has been a very enriching experience for me.
I love that. It's like I remember when we moved here. Again, I was relatively young, like a teen, if that. Um, but it was the small things that I started missing. It's like, oh, I could just randomly go to my aunt's house because it's right there across the street, or I could just go play with my cousins because they're right there by the street, right? And just having a community around you, that was something that I didn't realize that I would miss so much, especially after you move to a new country. And
Yeah.
so my favorite holidays are like Diwali and Holi, and all of that requires having more than just, your immediate family, because that's what makes it more fun to celebrate. So, not being able to celebrate those things, it's like, wow, I did not realize how much I loved it and how much it made me feel like home. And that those are some things that, you kind of miss and you can't really replace those.
Yep, no, absolutely. Like, missing all of your like in all of these festivities, like missing Durga Puja, like I'm a Bengali, I'm from West Bengal. So missing Durga Puja is a definitely big thing. Missing my best friend's wedding, right? Because what's a big thing? Because of course, as friends, we always, grow together, we discuss each other's wedding, we discuss each other's dates. So from that, when you get into that added state and you finally cannot make it to that, so those are things that is irreplaceable. Again, not getting to spend much time with your parents. But yeah, my parents do, of course, come here. We spend time together. But it's different, of course. I love India, right? There are so many things in India that's that you cannot just replace. And of course, and the sense of community. At least in Seattle, we have a big Indian community. We have a dance group. It's called Live to Dance Seattle, and yeah, we have a big community in here, so we don't really like miss those celebrations. We have our own ways of celebrating those, but again, India is love, like and especially Durga Puja in West Bengal. That's a whole experience altogether.
Yeah, I think I've only experienced that like through media, not necessarily gone, and I would love
Yep.
to go.
You should for sure.
Definitely. No, that sounds amazing. Now I'm missing home, but kind of going going back to just, being a woman in tech, has there been any situations where you felt like you had to, take the extra mile and take the extra step to be like, I'm here?
All the time, every day, I would say,
Ooh.
right? That is the basic. And not only in your professional life, in your personal life as well, right? Because I don't feel there's a demarcation between your personal life and a professional life. It's kind of balanced. And we don't say here work-life balance, we say work-life harmony. That's an Amazon term, because I was in Amazon before Microsoft. So we call it work-life harmony. So yes, I think in general in life, be it your workplace or in your personal, you always have to be your own advocate, right?
Mm,
No one is gonna hand you any opportunities, right? Unless you ask for it, right? And as they say, even a baby gets the milk only when he or she is crying. So you have to
mm,
be that crying baby, right?
yeah.
You have to ask for opportunities. You have to say your own thoughts. You have to be very strong on your opinions. And of course, respect others' perspectives and opinions as well. But you have to be your own advocate. Like I remember, and especially back in India, there is kind of a notion that girls do not get promoted as easily.
Mm,
Um, because of number of reasons, you can say, but I mostly feel women are in general multitasker. We
mm,
can balance so many things together, which I'm not saying men do a bad job at it, but maybe women do a little better job at it, right?
mhm,
So definitely advocate for yourself, advocate for your dreams in your personal life, in your professional life always, and be your own cheerleader always, right? So that's the basic thing. As a man, as a woman, we all need to do that.
yeah.
If you do not believe in yourself, how can you make others believe in you, right? and
Yeah.
and that's again a very good interview advice. I always say all of my mentees that in an interview in a way that you're already in that role,
Mm,
because if you show that confidence, that is the energy that you will transfer to the other side as well,
mm,
right? So that's the best interview advice someone gave me sometime, and I love that and I follow that. And make your interviews conversational rather than, hey, okay, like it's a question answer round. No, right? Behave that you're already in that job. You know the job. Of course, there are many unknowns to the job.
yeah.
Yeah, that's the way.
No, well, 2 points that you said. One last point that you mentioned is like treat the interview as if it's a conversation. And I also like to keep in mind that these are the people that you're going to be working with. If you don't feel like you can have a conversation with them, then that you may need to reconsider whether or not you want to continue in the interview process. And yes, we all get nervous. It's, you want to get the job. I assume that's why you're interviewing. But yes, we get nervous, but it's also, being mindful that it needs to be a two-way street, because you also need to figure out if this is the company that you actually want to work for. And if you don't, that's okay. It's okay to say no, it's okay to not move forward in the process, but don't treat it like, I try not to treat it like an exam. I try to treat it like they want to know me and I want to know them and see if it's going to be in harmony, with my work-life harmony. Um, there was another point that you mentioned early on. It was the work-life harmony part, I believe. What's that like for you right now, since you called yourself a workaholic, but how do you find the harmony with those two aspects?
Well, I think, as I said, it's all about balancing. It's all about prioritizing what's important for me today and what are the immediate things that I have to do right now. Like, I'm not a perfectionist. I believe in getting the job done more than getting the job done, perfectly. Because you have so many things, or at least I have, so many things on my plate. Now, if I have to do it absolutely following the proper steps, I might not end up, finishing it up all, right? So it's all about prioritizing, what is important for you today. What are the things that you need to achieve first, to just and have a checklist and just keep checking it out. And make sure also, because all these years in your life is not going to come back, right? So make sure you're traveling as well. You're finding that the time to travel, you're finding the travel to see the northern lights, for example, to have to take a trip to Europe. And I recently did that. I was recently in London for 10 days, and that's one of the things that I wanted to do since a long time. So yes, the balance of both, because I definitely feel if you're burnt out, if you're doing so much work and you're not taking time off, if you're not doing things for your own, you wouldn't be you wouldn't sustain for long, and you wouldn't be very productive at work as well. So you need to make sure that you're taking off, so you're giving yourself time to just detach, relax, and then again come back super fresh, super strong. So yes,
Yeah.
balance.
There's a balance and
Yep.
some points that you've hit on. So I'm gonna try to break it down a little bit. One thing previously, before we went down this, the harmony part, it was all about like advocating for yourself. When you're talking to your mentees and they're coming up to you, is there a theme that you tend to notice that this is something that people tend to struggle with? Is it related to they can't advocate for themselves because they don't believe in themselves. So how are they supposed to show up to an interview saying, I'm capable of doing this? Is that what tends to be the theme, or are there other things that tend to come up across the board?
So one thing I notice for most of my mentees is people self reject themselves, which is like, for example, they're probably saying, hey, I don't want to apply for Meta at this point, I don't want to apply for Google at this time, I'm not going to prepare, I'm not going to apply to Amazon, because probably I'm just coming out of school, so probably I'm not qualified yet to get those jobs. But hey, go apply.
Yeah.
you know even if you get rejected, but interview, right? Because that interview process is a learning process. Take interviews as a learning opportunity and the learning process as well, right? And only when you interview, you would know what things you know and what things you need to work on. So never self reject yourself. Go apply for that job. Even if you do not get selected, it's okay. It's a learning process, right? And then the next time when you interview for Amazon, you definitely get it. And I'll tell my personal story. So I was, and I'm always very focused as well. Like, I'm generally very sure in my life that this is the role that I want. Like, when I was graduating from UConn, like after my master's, I knew that I wanted to be a data engineer, nothing else. I did not want to be a data analyst. I did not want to be a business intelligence engineer. I wanted to be a data engineer, as simple as that. Right. So I interviewed for Amazon for a data engineering role. I got rejected, first time. Great. I got kind of the similar role in CVS as a data strategy advisor. The
Mm,
next time I interviewed for Amazon, I knew, like, these are the things that I was asked the first time and I couldn't answer. So these are the things I need to prepare for.
mm,
So I took some time. I worked for CVS. I prepared for all those things. And then I came back, I interviewed for Amazon as a data engineer again, and I got the job.
yeah.
Right. So unless you interview, how would you know where do you
Yeah.
want to, where do you stand and what you need to prepare for? So definitely don't self reject yourself. Go apply for that job. Go interview. And it's a learning process. It's a journey. Your entire career is a journey, right? And it's okay to be rich, and don't take rejections as rejections. And as you said, right, it's a mutual fit. For example, if I did not get a data engineer job in at Amazon at that point, so I was not ready for it. So I
Mm,
don't want to get in a situation where I get into Amazon, for example, however, by a miracle or whatever, I get into Amazon, but I'm not ready for that job, right? So I don't want to be in that situation, right? It has to be a mutual fit. And if I'm not ready for that job now, doesn't mean I won't be ready for that job ever. I'm
yeah.
just not ready now. So I'll work for it. I'll prepare for it and I'll get it. No big deal.
Yeah, and I think it's so often, and I've done this in the past too, like being rejected, it was like, oh my God, it's a label on myself that I'm gonna have to live with forever. And that's
Yeah.
not the case. And slowly I've realized that it's just a rejection. That's all it is, right? And it's
It's not a
also
mutual fit, as simple. It's not a mutual fit as at this point of time.
yeah, and it's an opportunity to realize where the gaps lie. And that's what I did too when you're pivoting into a new role, especially realizing where the knowledge gap may be or like the skill gap may be and work towards filling that up. And when it is a match, you'll get it and it'll work out for, in the long run. It may not be right now. And I think you mentioned this earlier too. Everyone has a different path that they're going to take. And the amount of time that you're in a specific phase, it's going to be different for everyone. So just be mindful of that. And it's a progression and you're going to keep moving forward. So
Yeah.
there was another thing that, you had mentioned about taking time off. A lot of people don't do that, including me. I started doing that maybe like a year or so ago, is realizing that those breaks are so important and so crucial. It's the, I'm going to take a guess, right? And I'm going to make a very general statement. It's the idea of taking a break feels like you're taking a step back, even though all it is just pausing and pausing to realign yourself to keep going on the path that you're currently on. But I've heard that, and I've may have experienced this in the past too. It's like, but if I stop now, I'm going to fall behind. But that's not how it works. Is that something that you've heard from other people, or is that something you used to think about and now you realize now, no, breaks are actually important?
Yeah, I would say I used to think about that, not in a way that like it is like it's a step back or something, but I definitely thought that maybe since others are probably not taking as much break, maybe I also wouldn't want to be
Hmm.
taking as much break. But then I realized, I am myself, right? I don't have to compare myself with anyone else. People might not want to. People might not have travel goals. I do have travel goals, and that's not bad, because when I'm working, I am 100% working. And again, I don't like to work while I'm traveling, not even taking a meeting, unless it's like very important, which probably it wouldn't be any time. And one of my previous managers told me one thing: hey, we are not inventing the cure to coronavirus. We are not sending anyone else to moon as a technical specialist, or in a technical role, doing all of this coding jobs. So don't worry about it, right? So if
Yeah.
you need to unplug, just unplug. And even if it is you're not traveling anywhere, even if you're just staying at home, even if you are just staycationing, do that, because we do, we definitely deserve that. And also it makes us more productive at work when we are back at it.
Yeah. And I could definitely agree with that. I've taken so many, it's not a lot of time off, but when I need it, take the time off to just, even if I'm just sleeping in, I need my sleep
Yeah,
sometimes
of course.
just to feel refreshed.
Yeah.
But I do want to start wrapping this up, and it's going to be a lot of kind of tying into what kind of advice do you have from people who are, just moving, or are current immigrants studying in the US, or just looking for a new job? What kind of advice would you have for individuals in that place right now?
Again, reiterating the fact of don't self-reject yourself, number one. Number two, have a plan, like, evaluate your skill sets, evaluate yourself as a person. Like, if you want a customer facing job versus if you want an internal job. If you want an internal job, what kind of roles do you want? Do you want a data analyst position? Do you want a like a product analyst position? Do you want a BIE position, or business intelligence engineer? Do you want a data engineering position, or do you want a software engineering position? Do you want to be applied scientist or a data scientist? So firstly, know all of these roles. Then if you want to be on the business, on the customer facing side, do you want a consulting role, for example, right? Like maybe you want to start at PwC, or what, or all of these. Also, there's other roles, like, the CSA role, for example, right? The cloud solution architects, customer engineers, and customer support engineers. So figure out, what are the different roles. The first thing is the your knowledge of these different roles, then figuring it out, and kind of having a introspection of, what type of role do you want for yourself, and where are your skill sets that's required for this role versus what you have. If there is any skill gaps, then what steps should you take to kind of bridge that skill gap. So that's the most important part. Once you have that figured out, go search for companies, the top companies in that space, and start with the tier one companies, tier two companies, right? Don't self reject yourself, and just prepare for it. You will be fine. You'll definitely get that job. Another part of it is preparing for the behavioral rounds. Often as technical folks, we are so deeply, we are doing our SQLs perfectly, we are doing our Pythons perfectly, we are doing, our SD roles, whatever programming languages perfectly, but we, do not pay enough attention, or we do not prepare as much for our behavioral rounds, like simple questions like, tell me about your strengths and weaknesses, or tell me about yourself. But these are conversation drivers. You can literally, and I have done that so many times in my interviews, you can literally drive your interviews. It is on your hand, because the first statement, the way you introduce yourself, the interviewers will go from there, right? So the way you describe yourself will set the path for your interview. So make sure you're saying the right words, you're preparing for it, you're strategically preparing for it, right?
Yeah.
For example, if you say, I'm an aspiring SDE or something like that, and I have my skills on Python, blah, blah, blah. So those will be the languages that you're kind of tested on. In a customer facing role, right? What are the skills that's important? Like, of course, your customer obsession, your, how can you go deep dive, your deep diving skills, which basically ties to your data analysis skills. So figuring that out, and having a targeted role instead of, I've seen people applying as an analyst, as a BI, as a data engineer, as a data scientist, everything, like
Yeah.
whatever hits, right? But be a little focused, know the particular role, know the particular, industry that you want to get in, and prepare for that. Then the search becomes narrow, focused, and the search also becomes easier, I would say.
I think one point that you had mentioned earlier too, and I didn't get a chance to ask you, and you hit on it again. It's the importance of having clarity and
Yeah.
self-awareness as you're moving forward in your professional or even personal life.
Yeah.
It's how do you move forward without those things?
It's again, it is a lot of value to have clarity for yourself, and also it makes the journey easy, right? Because in that case, it is a focus search, be it the search for a job, or be it the search for a life partner, whatever. But unless you know what works for you, it's very hard to figure out. So the first thing, know yourself, I would say.
And I think I want to add something to that. It's um, when I was just starting out, when it came to career stuff, especially, I didn't have clarity, and it took me 3 years to gain that clarity. And the only reason why I got that clarity was through action. So I used to think that our clarity is just going to come out of nowhere, right? If I keep asking myself questions, it's just going to appear out of the cloud and it's just going to be in my mind. But it's going to come having, having those conversations with your mentors or new networks that you've created and asking questions, doing your own research. It's going to take some level of action to gain that clarity. And that's just something that I've learned through experiences. And don't just hope and pray clarity is going to come. That's not how it works.
No, definitely. You would have your career mentors. You would have your, people that who would inspire you and motivate you. Other than that, other good way of gaining clarity is also to try different options. Like, like when I started my career, I wanted to be SD. I was SD, right? I started as a SD. Then I started doing more of my deployments in Azure, and that's how I somehow got introduced into data engineering space as well. Because the data was big data was just in, and then the big data analytics space was booming. That's how I became. Kind of a data engineer, and I did my master's as well on business analytics, so a blend of data engineer and a data scientist, and I was doing everything on cloud, and Azure was my main cloud always, and that kind of paved the way for me to become a cloud solution architect. So it's
Mm,
okay to just experiment and just try new things, because unless you try different things, you wouldn't know that things that you like, that you won't like I hear from many mid-career professionals that, hey, I for example, I don't want a customer facing role ever, but have you tried it? Like, did you try
yeah.
and then realize that you don't like it? Did you do
Mm,
it? Maybe not. Again, for someone at kind of my level, like who is like around 10 years, 11 years of experience, I hear many of my peers say, hey, for example, I don't want a people management role. But dude, have you tried it? Right? Unless you try it, how do you come to a conclusion that, hey, that's not something I don't like ever? Maybe just give it a try. You might love it, right?
yeah.
But unless you are in those shoes, you wouldn't probably know it. There are many unknowns to that role and position and responsibilities unless you try it. So yes, definitely try, explore, and in Amazon, as we say, it's always a two-way reversible decision. It's not like if you have if you have taken a role that you did not like, you can always come back to your previous role. But
Mm.
try, experiment. Life is short. Go explore in terms of professional, your professional career as well, and in terms of your travel or whatever things as well.
Trial and error process, and that's how you're going to gain clarity. And you're right, don't be afraid to take those risks and figure out what you actually like and what you don't like. So I love that. And kind of tying into the advice piece, is there any specific advice, if it's different, for especially women in tech who are navigating early in their career or even midway into their career?
Well, for women, the situation is a little bit harder. I would say not as much. Again, if you consider it like it is going to be a very hard path, then it would be, but it is not. And don't consider yourself. You will often be in a situation where probably in the entire room it's all men, and you're the only woman in the room. But don't even think of that. You're like these are also people. I'm also people. Like it's as simple as that. You're not less than anyone. You're probably superior than everyone else. So yeah, don't even have it in my mind. That I'm a woman and I have to know it all. Just be
Yeah.
in the attitude of like learn it all, whatever it is. I'll just take new challenges. I will explore. I will give myself a chance. I will just prove that I am worthy of it, and I can work hard towards it, and I'll just have it. So don't self doubt, don't self reject. That's the first thing we need to get rid of, like as a woman. So that's definitely a start. And you don't have to please anyone at all, like as a woman, we have this, especially having roots from India. We always try to please people. We always want
Yeah.
to keep everyone happy, but believe me, you cannot keep everyone happy, and you don't even need to. So whatever pleases you, do that. Whatever you feel like doing, whatever your heart feels like doing, just do that, because at
Yeah.
the end of it, it's your life. You don't want to depend on your decisions later. You want to live your life to the fullest, and professionally and personally.
Yeah, and I think it's a great reminder, saying it's going to be your life. No one else has to live it. So are you comfortable making those decisions? Don't make it to please other people because you can't please everyone.
Yeah,
The first person should try to
and
please
you
it.
need to please everyone. Just be bold, take those hard decisions. But when if in life there is time, and probably there will be situations, there will be where you wouldn't fail at some places, but that's okay. Failure is just a part of trying new things, but it's okay. Just come back and again start. It's
Yeah.
and always take failure as I don't like the word failure, to be
Mm.
honest. I take it as a learning, like, oh, hey, okay, this did not work out. Great, fine. I'll just try something else. Good. I at least know now that it didn't work out for me, right? Like all of my bad dates throughout my entire life. What did they teach me? That yes, that those things doesn't work out for me, right?
Yes.
Yep.
They come with heartbreaks, but those things didn't work out for a reason.
Yeah, heartbreaks are great as well, because you get to channelize your energy in things that really matter in your life. Like for example, I always say this, right? Your career will never leave you.
Mm,
So make sure that you're dedicated to that to
yeah,
that. It won't
yeah.
ever leave you. It won't ever ditch you.
That's funny. I go work out and just thinking the gym will never leave me. Okay. That's funny. But no, this has been a wonderful session. And I just want to wrap it up because there's a tiny little bit that we do on the show. It's called Rapid Fire. What's the best place you've traveled to, and what's one place that you want to travel to next?
Well, recently I went to London. That was a great experience. I also went to Alaska to see the Northern Lights. So these two experiences are the highlights of my travel life yet. And next, I want to travel to Greece.
And what's one thing that you're currently learning?
Well, I'm writing a book. I've not done that before, so I am like I know the technical contents of the book. It's a technical book, but then there are other things that you need to do as an author. So those
Hmm.
things I am learning. I'm
Uh,
learning how to write a book or how to format a book, I would say.
can you share the book? Because I did not know that. Congrats.
Yes, yeah. So it's on Azure. So so for example, if someone is starting a journey on Azure on the Azure cloud platform, so what are the different attributes? What are the different
Mm.
storage containers? What are the different data analytics tools, big data analytics tools? What are the different AI tools? Also taking care of the infrastructure, taking care of the networking, taking care of the logic apps, web apps. So yes, it is mastering Azure.
I love that. Congratulations. It should be a fun process for you.
Oh yes, yes, a lot of learning and learning. The basic stuffs like formatting.
Mm. A lot of formatting. And just to wrap up, is there anything that you would like to share that I didn't get to cover or that you feel like we didn't really get a chance to capture?
I think you did, cover all the things. If I have to conclude, I would definitely say for anyone and everyone, be bold. It's your life. You are in charge of it. And as I said, you don't have to please everyone, take your own decisions and you only live your life once. So do all that you want, like live your heart out, try everything that you want to try professionally and personally and make sure that you have time for your personal, achievements as well, for your personal goals as well. So yeah, life is beautiful and just don't complicate it. I feel many people overthink and overcomplicate few situations, but life is easy. Just enjoy it and live it to your fullest.
And where can people find you? And if they want to connect and just have a chat, maybe, after this, where can they find you?
Well, LinkedIn for sure, and I'm also a mentor on TopMate. So yeah, those are the two places that you can definitely find me. I'm also building this community called AI Boardroom. This is a community for AI enthusiasts and anyone who is getting started with their AI journey. It's called AI Boardroom. I just opened an Instagram page for it, so I'll add the link to that as well. So yes, please join our communities and let's learn and explore AI together because next 5 years AI is gonna boom. Like for if you just go to LinkedIn before, if you just went to LinkedIn a year before, and if you search with AI, you wouldn't get a lot of jobs. But right now there are a lot of jobs in LinkedIn. Like for example, AI developer, AI engineer, AI researchers, and it's only gonna grow from here. So yes, let's build a AI community.